We have a very timely and relevant session today. So we're approaching 2023. If you're on this call, you probably know that this session is all about Google Ads, specifically Google Ads for lead gen, which, as we know, is never getting less expensive, and it's never getting less competitive, right? 10 years ago, there were far fewer advertisers on Google, and lead gen was a lot cheaper, right? The cost per clicks were lower, it was less competitive, and now it's becoming much more saturated. So the question is, how do we compete in a world where search is just getting noisier and noisier, and more people are, there's more and more people coming onto search, but also more and more competitors that are looking to use Google Ads to drive their business, right? The good news is that Google just had their annual lead gen summit. So this was in early November, and shared some of the things that advertisers can do to start adopting some new technologies, new features that they have to advance their lead gen strategy, right? To drive down the cost, not just drive down the cost of leads, but improve the quality of leads as well, so that you're getting leads that are relevant for your business. So we're going to talk about some of the key takeaways from that summit, and what you guys can do today to start implementing some of these strategies and tactics into your campaigns. And we got the perfect person here to do that. She was our representative at the Google Ads Lead Gen Conference. She is a paid search marketing expert extraordinaire, also has some mastery on the native side of things as well. But she has been a secret weapon behind several of our top Google Ads accounts. We're very excited to have her running us through this debrief today. Julia Berry, welcome to the Growth Clinic.
All right, thanks, Jarrett. Yeah, really happy to be here again with you guys, and really excited because there were a lot of moments that, when I was at the Lead Gen Summit, that was at the Google HQ in California, where I was just, taken aback by some of the stats they were sharing. And, it just got ideas percolating for, how, to make lead forms better, how to make the lead journey better, how to automate better.
Love it. Yeah. So before we dive in, and Julia, I want to take a quick poll from the audience. So if you could, please drop in the chat, if you're using Google Ads today, what are some of your biggest challenges with your Google Ads lead gen campaigns? For example, are you getting leads, but you need more qualified leads? Is it the lead quality issue? Are you just hitting a plateau and trying to figure out how to scale your ads while not breaking your campaigns? If you could just take a moment, drop in what your biggest challenges are. We'll make sure to address them as we work through here today. Scaling, says Jim. Yep, it's a big one. Leads plateau. Better quality leads. Yep.
Yeah, and if you want to throw in industries, specific
good.
industries, that could be helpful too.
Legal. Legal's good. Seasonality. Yeah, that's a really good one. Healthcare, B2B, HR tech. Yep. Software. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it seems like we've got a good mix here of industries, and a lot of the common challenges we see. So scaling your ads, leads are hitting a plateau. Seasonality is a big one. Quality, of course, is the big overarching concern very frequently. Campaign structure for application generation. That's interesting. Need B2B conversions, mostly getting B2C. Okay, that's an interesting one, David. We can definitely cover that. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, it sounds like, we can definitely tackle a lot of these challenges. Julia, let's dive right in. Tell us about the Lead Gen Summit and some of the takeaways.
Cool. Okay, so first we're going to basically start out with, some learnings about, understanding the customer journey, directly from Google as to where they're seeing on their side, and then going into, ways in which we can take advantage of the algorithm and take advantage of the technology that we have at our fingertips in order to set ourselves up for success and scale and growth and more leads. But I always caveat with, I would always prefer more qualified, fewer but better quality leads than just a mass of differing quality leads. And that was definitely, that's in line with what they're looking to do, and that they're looking to increase on their side of the business. So yeah, we'll go into the top takeaways. So one of the biggest things that was repeatedly emphasized is this idea. Mhm.
Julia, were you sharing your screen?
Oh, sorry. I
No,
am
you're
not
good.
sharing my screen yet,
No, you are good.
but
No
thank you.
worries. No, but just to add, just to touch on what you were saying, Julia, yeah, I think obviously continuing to have a volume of leads, right? If you think about any marketing team, they need to feed their sales team leads. So that's certainly important. But if the leads are cut, or the sales team's coming back and saying these leads are junk, or they're not qualified, or they're B2C instead of B2B, right? So they're not even the right type of lead, then that's a huge problem, right? So I'm excited to chat through some of these things. I think a lot of what we'll cover today is about how we can make sure that we're not just driving leads or not driving form fills, but really focusing on the right objectives with our campaigns and making sure that Google knows what our objective is and is optimizing towards that.
Totally.
Yep.
All right. I am now screen sharing. Yeah, so one of the biggest things that was emphasized repeatedly over multiple modules during the summit was that customer journeys have not just elongated over time, they're also becoming increasingly convoluted. And, what they, kind of represented this as is this idea of the messy middle, which is this, entangled space in between the initial purchase trigger and then the actual purchase made. This is messier than ever. This is more complicated. There's more research. Customers are taking, more research into consideration before they actually, make the purchase itself. A lot of different options are being weighed. And it just as kind of like a representation, a quantitative representation of that. They shared with us that there are 238 million unique search paths every 30 minutes. And because of this, because so many different searches are going on, 93% of customer journeys are not replicable. So that's where, the leaning on Google and the Google algorithm in order to take all of their, amassed understanding of different customers and the different points in the journeys that they're on. That is, crucial to being able to scale and to gain efficiencies when we're looking to drive lead gen.
Yeah, and Julie, if I could color this with an example. So say I'm a B2B software company. It's not just the journey of like, oh, I realize I need, HR software for my company. So I'm going to Google HR tech or HR software and then see the ad and click, right? Reality is I'm going to realize that I have a problem. I'm probably going to Google around to search for my HR problem or issue, right? Like I'm having issues with XYZ, and maybe I'll read some articles on that. Then I'll learn, oh, there's software that can help me with this. And then I'll go on G2 or maybe Capterra, one of these review sites, and evaluate different softwares. But then I'm not necessarily going to go and get a demo there. I'm going to go and ask my friends. I'm going to go in, communities with other, software folks and say, hey, who do you guys recommend for this HR tech for this problem I'm having, right? And then I'm going to go, maybe I'll go to search, or maybe I'll see an ad and I'll click it, right? But that journey is going to be different for every single person, to your point, right? So the power of Google and what it's able to do is it's able to track and measure all these across that entire journey in a systematic way and see like what are the commonalities, right? In a way that no one human can do. So when we talk about giving our trust to the machine learning algorithm, it's really about leaning on the work that Google's already done to understand what are these various paths to purchase and what do they look like, versus trying to start from scratch and figure it out ourselves, right? So that's really the power of this approach that we're talking about here is like, the data, if you will, has gotten so big that it makes a lot of sense now to rely on the algorithm. But the key is we need to make sure that we're feeding at the right data, which we'll get into.
Yeah, and I'll also touch on this later, but there can be a lot of anxiety around the idea of leaving it up to Google, putting it in the Google algorithm's hands, by implementing automated bidding. And I always think of it as it's only good as the data. Google's algorithm is only good as the data that you're giving it, and you need to be there to implement that data and make sure that data is flowing in correctly, but also make adjustments, like figure out through your own knowledge of your own business, like what signals like really matter. And maybe you have to, maybe tweak and change the signals that you bid towards. So, in that respect, I'm not worried about my job becoming obsolete, even though, a few years ago it was like, oh, Google's just gonna, automate us out of a job. But I don't think, maybe in like 30 years, potentially, but for right now, I feel pretty confident in, the Google algorithm does more than any person or even like a collective group of individuals could ever do, because they're bidding, in real time on the Google Ads search engine auction. But we have to be there to steer it, and to give it the information of, what is a quality lead to us. Anyone can put, have Google optimized towards leads, but it takes a little bit more diving into your own business to understand, like, what is a quality lead? What is a signal of a person who is more likely to make their way all the way to purchase?
100%.
And one of the modules we had was that Google conducted a cross-category lead gen specific study to understand the complexity of the customer journey. So, and pretty much all of the industries were represented in that study. So like B2B, legal, finance, these were all represented there, as well as some that weren't mentioned, like car sales, and like home services, things like that. So they were finding commonalities across the board, although they did mention, a couple times to us how, a specific industry had a higher percentage here or there, but ultimately they were looking for commonalities across the lead gen specific customer journey. And so here are some statistics of, bits and pieces that they found here. Overall, within this messy middle where, a lot of research is going on and taking up a good amount of time being spent on, like, just within Google itself, customers are weighing a lot of different factors before actually, pulling the trigger and choosing a provider. Just to go through some of these, brand loyalty is decreasing. 1 in 2 customers are willing to leave a brand that they've, been loyal to in order to get a better offer. But this also, some of these, are intimidating, but also, the flip side of decreased brand loyalty is that gives you an option to put yourself in front of someone that has never seen you before, and, present that better offer and capture their attention that's being pulled in so many different directions. Another statistic up the top, 85% of customers say they haven't made a purchase simply because they haven't found the best value yet. And actually, like from my notes, they said that the customers that haven't made a purchase because they haven't found the best value yet, this was actually highest in legal, investments, and insurance verticals. So, which, makes a lot of sense. I myself have a wealth management client, and, that, is, we've, even though it's a B2C industry, it's such a huge decision investment. So it makes sense that, somebody would be looking around for a long period of time and looking for value specifically.
Yeah. Just to touch on that, Julia, I think it speaks to the importance of, because you can't be a commodity anymore, right? More and more, like, you have, like, this is where marketing becomes really important, because you have to figure out, in a world where everybody's bidding for the same keyword and everybody looks the same, how do you stand out? How do you differentiate to your market versus, the thousands of other options they have out there that are all bidding for the same position in Google Ads, right? So I think it really, puts a fine point on the fact that our job as marketers is more important than ever, right? The ability to differentiate our brand, the ability to use creative in our messaging, to tell that story and punch through the noise in a way that, gets through, all the other myriad of options that our market has, and makes them say, yes, that's the one for me.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I mean, there is a lot going on. When you talk about punching through the noise, there are so many different options that are being weighed because so much time is being taken. So they found, in this cross category study that customers are spending in between 5 and 11 hours doing research before the purchase. And I would, I would argue that, for categories like finance, that this could be even longer. Finance B2B, like these are big decisions being made, and customers aren't taking this lightly, especially, in a period of inflation, where people are, cutting back on budgets, and that idea of looking for the best value, that is very important to them. And it's important to capture, to offer your value up, as soon as they see you, in order to drag their attention your way.
Great point.
Down at the bottom, customers are considering 4 different providers on average, which is usually at least 3 and at max 5. So, you are you've got direct competition that more than ever, because the attention's flitting from so many different subjects before the actual purchase is made. You have an opportunity to position yourself against your competitors. I'm not sure if you've gotten a chance to see this yet, but if you go to Google, they've added a new feature, and we can probably provide instructions of how to see this afterwards. But they have a new feature where you can click the dots next to any given ad, and then you can pick the option of show me all of the ads that this advertiser is running. So it's basically, Facebook already has this where you can look up an advertiser and see what their live creative, what their live ad variants look like. Now Google, a couple weeks ago, added this feature. So they now have a Google Ad Center where you can see text, display, and video assets that your competitors are running. And I definitely recommend checking that out, and giving that a look to see how your direct competitors positioning themselves.
The Google Ads library is live. Hey guys, I posted a link in the chat. It's a Loom video that one of our teammates did walking through how to access it. Feel free to save that, and yeah, that's how you can see what your competitors are running on Google Ads.
And lastly, here in the corner, 1 in 5 customers say that they haven't made a purchase because they haven't found a company that they trust. So not only is value key to a customer, and making that actual decision, but also trust is, increasingly important, especially when, it's front of mind, even if you're not in the industry. Just data protection, data privacy. People are, will be wary of, giving information, and that can cause friction when you get to a lead form as to, do I really want to give this person, this company, my email and my phone number and, all of the sensitive information. So, trust, value, and just the overall, the research, the experience, these 3 components were highlighted as, things to, as the key things to focus on when differentiating yourself in this ever elongated customer journey. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But before that, they also presented this information, specifically on leads, which, this definitely took me aback a bit, that during this research process, so, more in the higher funnel stages than, and then the lower funnel stages, only 11% of customers used a lead gen form. Which makes sense. Usually we try to get our lead gen forms out there in mid or bottom funnel, but less. We expect research to be more, just for website retargeting for visitors, something like that. However, of those 11% of customers that used a lead gen form in the research process, 90% of those who submitted a form actually found it useful. This is a big opportunity for you. There is, in this very long and widened customer journey, like there's an opportunity for you to get your foot in the door when, even when somebody is still weighing options and they do, have, they're only on, hour 1 of the 11 hours they may spend before they make a purchase. So this is kind of, this is an idea of rethinking the lead form as not just a mid or bottom funnel strategy, but as this research opportunity to connect with a customer early on in this messy middle. And this is also a great, if you are getting people to fill out forms, you shouldn't expect as many in your top of funnel campaigns as you do in your mid and bottom funnel. But, of these people that you capture early on, that also, opens the door wide for retargeting plays where you can further interact with them because you know that they are going to have, a long way to go before they actually make a purchase. You can keep, if they initially submit a lead, you can keep putting yourself out there, keep trying to, offer them value, a good experience, and just emphasize the trust that, they should have in your company.
Yeah, my takeaway is forms are not a bad word. Customers don't universally hate forms. In fact, when done right, they can actually be helpful. And the other takeaway I have is they should not just be at the bottom of the funnel, right? You can use forms across the journey. As long as it's helpful for that end user, then yeah, use them, go for it.
Yeah, value, experience, trust. These were major points, and we can talk through each of these. But ultimately, they don't work in isolation. These are things that that you should be thinking about together, and as like an apparatus to help customers choose you when they are going through a long process where they are getting, a lot of people are raising their hands via search, display, YouTube, etc. ads, and it's, you have to kind of think about how you can bring the value, experience, and trust to the table in order to make yourself stand out. So value, this is, the idea of balancing quality and price. And Google search trends, since the pandemic, best, people searching for like the best option or the cheapest option, both of those have been rising. But in particular, right now, especially in a time where inflation is top of mind for everybody, people are not only, not searching for just best or the cheapest option, but they're searching for the best and the cheapest option. Obviously, as as the company offering the products, we still want to get the most value for ourselves. But, there are ways in which we can think about how we can emphasize value without necessarily like underpricing ourselves or undervaluing our product just to, get to take people away from the competition. So, an idea is to offer bundles, because if we are trying to tap into value, offering more or better for the same price, then a bundle of, 2 of your services together could be a way to, promote value without having to sacrifice, actual revenue. And 68% of customers that they studied always tried to bundle to save. Like, I don't know about you, but I've definitely swayed when I'm checking out and do see an option to, get 2 things for like 20% off. So that's an option. The takeaway there is definitely like there are things you can do which don't necessarily, have to actually like cheapen the services that you're offering. You can just pivot and reframe your offer to emphasize the value there. And the experience, this is highly situated around the lead gen form. So, we mentioned using and rethinking of the lead gen form as a tool in the research stage. We can also, throughout the entire funnel, think about, take a look at your lead gen form and think about what barriers could be removed from, could be within the form itself, and that could be preventing people from actually completing forms. One idea is to clarify the process. So if you have a multi-step form, having, something on the side of the page that indicates like, okay, this is the first step, and then you're also going to have a second, and then at the third step, you'll finally be able to submit. So, just kind of giving that idea that, it's going to be a quick process. It will be a multi-step process, but like, you will get it done quickly. That does a lot in terms of decreasing the friction that some customers face and feel when they are confronted with a form, where, if you're just clicking, if you've got a multi-step form, you might be wondering, if you don't have an indicator like that, you might be wondering like, how long is this really going to take? But that's, an idea of how you can rethink your lead gen form in order to enhance that experience. And this is something where, I mean, as an advertiser, it's very easy for me to say, can your sales team contact people more quickly? But, so this is definitely easier said than done. But, as much as you can, if you, are able to strategize, with your sales team and with the leads flowing in, from the research, they saw that customers, as part of the experience, they really appreciate a quick response and even expect it. 85% of customers expect a response back within 1 day, and even 50% of customers expect a response within the hour. Now, again, this was a cross-category study, so some of these, for B2B, that might not be as relevant as something like home services, but ultimately, it's worth to think about, how quickly that people are getting responses back after they have submitted forms.
Yeah, what is relevant for B2B is don't make me submit a request for a demo form and then make me wait 1, 2, 3, 4 days to get a response. I want a demo of your software. The best way to solve for that is just to remove that barrier entirely. So, you all may have heard of tools like Chili Piper. Just dropped a link in the chat there. Solves that problem immediately, right? Maybe you have a little front end form, but instead of having the user just fill out the fields and then wait for a response, they can book the meeting right there, right? So once again, we're empowering our users to actually do the thing that we want them to do, which is talk with our sales team, right? So use tools like that to, get rid of those, what would otherwise be needless barriers and needless burden on your sales team, really, so that we can get our users to the place we actually want them to go to.
And that's going to help with things like scale. If you need scale, but your sales team can't handle it at the moment, if there are ways to optimize that process and speed it up, like that helps you be able to say, okay, we can spend an extra, couple $10,000 to get more leads because we have the ability with our sales team because they're able to handle more leads right now.
Yep, 100%.
And lastly, trust. So this is also, heavily situated on, on the lead gen form itself, also about, just branding and how you position yourselves, but specifically, for our purposes in lead gen marketing, we can establish trust on the lead gen form. And oftentimes, that is something that we're not doing. I've definitely come to some of my clients and have realized, like, on our forms, we aren't really promoting trust. It's just kind of going off, we're asking questions and we're asking them to submit, but we're not doing anything else to promote security. And this is important because 4 in 10 customers made a decision based on reputation and trust. So if we can, and especially if this is like if this is a new customer who's just finding out about your business, we can immediately, promote trust by building the trust directly into the lead form experience. So 55% of customers will share their information if the provider promises to protect it. And that's something we can do by just putting a small like box of text just next to like the submit form button. We will not, we will protect your information, something about data privacy. That goes a long way. That is that shouldn't be too difficult to implement. Just a little bit of text, and that could promote, that promotes trust. It could increase conversion rates. It can only better the experience, really. And also 50% of customers don't mind sharing more information for better, faster service. Again, people are, really interested in a quick response. They're taking a lot of time, out of their own days, in order to research a product. And, and they want information because they are, they just submitted a lead form, but they're probably still going to be researching on their way. And, if they're not getting a response, they could have already gotten, a couple days passed by, they could have already submitted another lead form to a competitor. They've already gotten back to them. And suddenly it's a lot harder for you to wrench, their attention away from somebody who they're already having an interaction with. So, you don't necessarily have to reduce friction on the lead form by taking information away. You can also, ask additional questions if you're ensuring that, and letting the customer know, hey, like we're asking this, but it's to, better your experience, more personalize your experience. That means a lot, especially to a customer that is kind of adrift on their own, doing research for themselves. If you can be, if you can be active in helping personalize that journey for them, that's very helpful.
Yeah, Julia, that makes a ton of sense. A quick time check here. We're at 12:38, so we got about 20 minutes left. Julia, I know you got some more gold for us in those slides. So yeah, maybe we can, roll a bit quicker into them. But let us know if you have any questions, guys. Feel free to thread up, and there's a lot that's being thrown at you guys. So if you have something that stands out or you want clarification, feel free to chime in, and we'll be happy to address it.
Yeah, please do. We definitely want to, answer any questions that you have before we run out of time today.
Yep.
So basically, Google knows how customers are behaving, and that's important for us to feed them the good information. But we're only able to do that because we know our business. At the end of the day, Google can take our information and synthesize it, and then find the people who are most likely to be a match to the information. If that information is something like is likely to submit a lead and is likely to be a good quality prospect. But Google won't know that unless we're giving them that information. So if you're not already, you can start training Google to recognize and obtain quality leads rather than just leads en masse, by designing lead forms with signals of quality. And this is something that we're very big on at WebMechanix. We call it RDO, revenue-driven optimization. This is one way in order to that you can implement RDO, but it is one of the quicker ways. And that is having a qualified lead. So that is just adding an extra form on your lead, an extra field on your lead form that is asking a question of some type that would denote some kind of quality that is specific to your business. So on the right here, this is my wealth management clients, and on our mid-funnel asset download form, we are asking an estimate of the customer's investable assets, because in order to offer them a meeting with a wealth planner, our wealth planners only work with people who have at least $500,000 in investable assets in their retirement accounts. So we are able to, if someone does submit with at least $500,000 in this field, we are able to specifically fire a conversion event for these form submissions, and then use that data to set that as the conversion goal for Google, and tell them find more people who are likely to fill out this form and also likely to have at least $500,000 in investable assets. And we've seen really great results here. That is a pretty high that is a pretty high mark. Only about 9 to 11% of the US population actually has that much money in investable assets. That's a lot of money. But when we are, because of the machine learning that we've been able to train Google with these forms, we're actually massively over indexing like for that population, because 50% of the total leads that we receive are qualified. They are getting to that $500,000 or more thresholds. And that's simply because we gave Google the information, hey, find people like this who we find qualified, and Google goes and runs with it and does what we can never do on ourselves, like via the algorithm and via all the information that they know. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, Julia, this is huge, right? So this is what we affectionately call an IOQ, or an indicator of quality, right? In the case of David, you're needing more B2B conversions, you're getting B2C, you could ask a question like, how many employees do you have, right? If they have employees, they are going to have a business, right? Whereas if it's just myself or myself only, then what we would do then in that case is only fire the conversion when that qualifying criteria is met. So if they select, oh, it's just me, or I don't have a business, then we wouldn't fire conversion, and we would only be telling Google, hey, go find more people like this when they are a B2B, when they are qualified, right? Kayla, in your case, you might ask something like, how many jobs are you looking to staff? If you don't do onesie twosies and you're looking for higher quality, you might only fire the conversion when they have a certain number or a certain threshold of jobs that they need to staff, or roles in their organization. So this is a really useful and simple tool that you can use to start to give this clarity to Google, to build this cache of more qualified leads, and spend less time sifting through those that just aren't a fit.
Yeah, highly recommend qualified leads as the kind of first step into giving Google better signals. Another idea, and something that Google was promoting at the summit was the idea of mapping out the lead to sale journey. And they do have a template like this that you can fill in yourself, and it's basically doing what we call funnel math, and doing the backwards math from what the value, how much you're willing to pay for a full closed deal, and then doing the backwards math based on conversion rates. Thanks, Jarrett,
Yep.
dropping that template. That you can do the funnel math yourself, and then using conversion rates to back out to, okay, how many SQLs do you need at how much value to get to a closed deal? And so this is just a great exercise to do, just to see, how close you are in terms of, your cost per lead, to actually attaining the amount of closed deals that you want per month. Or if you're looking to scale, like what is the threshold of a cost per lead that you're willing to go up to in order to initially scale? Although, Google's research has indicated that by implementing this, you're likely to see at least 20% more leads with 30% efficiency. So this is doing this math and using this to guide your strategy. This should be something that not only allows scale, but also allows you to save money and be more efficient because you have the full picture of your entire sales cycle mapped out.
Yep, and if you guys follow that link I just dropped in the comments there, you'll see the templates that Google's provided broken out by industry. So everything from finance to healthcare, B2B software, legal, and more. So what you can do is you can just grab the template for your industry and lock and load and start doing your funnel math.
Another key point, your first party data is gold, because nobody has this but you. And if you are consistently, if you're consistently spending money on paid advertising month over month, like you are amassing data. That is an investment, into the data that you're able to bring, into your Google Ads account. So if you haven't already, ask yourself, is your CRM integrated and importing data directly into your Google Ads account yet? If not, it should be. If you have a typical, if you have one of the more standard CRMs like Salesforce or HubSpot, that should be pretty easy to implement. And if you don't have something that a CRM that has a direct integration, you can still do an offline conversion import to get that data into Google. And so that can, further, allow you to assign different values to each of the deal stages that you were looking at during your lead to sale journey mapping, in order, and then you can optimize towards those, like, using something like Target ROAS to try to achieve, the values that you've ascribed to certain deal stages. I will caveat here that, I do always recommend having enough sales data for any conversion goal that you want to, directly have Google optimize towards and bid towards. So Google recommends at least 30 conversion events in 30 days in order to start automating bidding towards that conversion event. I typically like to have at least double that. More data is never a bad thing. And so, something like in e-com, like that is where, usually you could do something like, at the actual point of sale, at the point of purchase. But when we're working in lead gen, usually, usually you're going to have a lot more volume and still good signals in deal stages or qualified leads that are coming before the actual sale. You're probably not going to have, unless you're spending enough, 60 actual closed deals in a month is a lot to ask Google to go after. So that's why it's a good idea to try to find earlier signals, which could be an SQL if you have enough volume there, or, even just a qualified lead that still has, that should be still, you should be having that set up to indicate that that early quality. And the plus of optimizing towards something like a qualified lead, you're going to have so much more more lead volume to optimize towards. Again, more data is always good for Google. So that's, that is something to consider. Use your first party data. And lastly, have you made the leap to automation yet? Have you, given up control, as you might think, in going from manual CPC to a smart bidding automated bid strategy? If not, that's okay. There is I was talking with Jared earlier, and there is a bit of an education gap between Google and its advertisers, where at the conference, it struck me that Google was really trying to emphasize the belief and trust in machine learning as an opportunity for growth and efficiency. There were, it seemed like they felt as if they needed to convince people to, to start, using automated bid strategies, to start leveraging the algorithm more. If you want to be cynical, you can think of Google, well, they're probably telling me this so I spend more money, which, usually they are. They do want you to spend more money on the platform. But like in this case, this is definitely an opportunity for where you can, you can find a lot more scale and a lot more efficiency by handing over some of the control, but also you're still in control because you are giving, you are telling Google the signals and like the thresholds in terms of like a target CPA. Like you need to meet, $150 per lead or $50 per lead. You need to meet this threshold, and you can only spend up to that.
Right. Because think about it. I mean, Google, they're not dumb, right? They know that like as their market becomes more competitive, it's going to get more expensive for advertisers across the board. Unless there's a way that advertisers can specifically optimize for their business outcomes using the platform, it's not going to be tenable, and advertisers are going to leave and find another platform to run their ads on. So, I mean, obviously Google has a monopoly of sorts on search, but there's other ways to get business, and so ultimately, the reason they're pushing automation is because they know that when done properly, it provides the outcomes that businesses need to continue to keep using Google, right? So it's not just, hey, Google wants you to spend more money. It's, hey, Google wants you to spend more money in a way that continues to be efficient for your business, because they know if you do that, then you'll continue being an advertiser.
And you'll continue to scale
Exactly.
oftentimes. So, they were really pushing this, trying to convince people, but I was sitting there, I went with my colleague, Will Gray, and we were, kind of talking to ourselves, and it was pretty much like, we've been talking about RDO and qualified leads. Like, honestly, we didn't need to be convinced because we have seen it work already. This is an example from one of my accounts where this is over the course of last year, but it's the best representation I have of like the impact that you can have by by moving from a manual bid strategy over to an automated bid strategy in terms of immediate impact in both volume and in cost efficiency. So for this client, I was bidding towards qualified leads. So I was using the qualified lead strategy, and initially, again, I had it on enhanced CPC for the first couple months of the year, really wasn't spending that much, and really wasn't getting a ton of leads. And they were also very, they were expensive. These were qualified leads. So, they weren't just any lead, but they were still like within the $300 range. And that was a lot higher than any of the other platforms we were getting qualified leads from. So I wanted to get that down. So in April of 2021, I started using the target CPA automated bid strategy to bid towards the qualified leads, because at that point we had gotten at least 30 leads in a 30-day period. I believe we had about 45. So I felt good moving into that strategy. And you can see a pretty immediate increase that month in lead volume, and an immediate drop in the cost per lead that had ballooned almost to $600. And that for over the course of that year and progressing into this year as well, that has only increased over time, the amount of qualified leads we're bringing in, and the costs have stayed relatively stable. As we've scaled up, I have made some concessions in terms of like, okay, I'm willing to pay like $10 extra and able to get like 20 more leads. Like, I'm fine doing that because we want more volume there. But yeah, even from March, where we were doing manual bidding, to April, just that 1 month, about a 30-day window, our qualified lead volume increased by 10x, and our cost per qualified lead decreased by 72%. So huge changes. And I wouldn't promise that this could happen to every single in every single situation, but in this case we did have a set qualified conversion objective, and we were implementing, we were thinking, telling Google go for this cost per lead, and it was able to do it and help us scale. So Google didn't have to evangelize to me. We were already on board, but I want to evangelize to you and tell you this is the way to go in terms of scaling Google.
Yep.
So yeah, these three steps or actions that you can take in December and beyond to set your Google Ads account up for success in 2023 to meet your scale and efficiency goals. So yep, just going through, map out your lead to sale journey. Even if you don't end up using this directly in a bid strategy, it's just good to like see for yourself, like, maybe your cost per lead that you're withstanding right now is a lot higher than it needs to be to get to the cost per closed deal that you want. It's just a good exercise to practice. Integrating first-party data into Google Ads. This is something, if you can, do so. If you can't, offline conversion import is also a good way to go. Just getting that data in there, so you can continue to understand, how deal stages are progressing, and everything is tied back with the Google Click ID. So you can attribute a deal back to, you know, the level of the keyword. I find that extremely useful for seeing, you know, okay, this campaign got a lot of leads, but ultimately these are the keywords that actually got SQLs or actually got closed deals. That's very useful. And then automating against your business goals. So if you have enough conversion volume, and it's good to start out with qualified lead conversion volume, try it out, use an automated bid strategy, and make the most, allow Google to make the most of the data you're able to provide, because you know, usually there is a ceiling when you are using a manual strategy as opposed to an automated one.
Love it. Julia, first of all, just want to say thank you. This is fantastic. I think you really distilled the key takeaways from the conference. And look, I think, you know, the proof is in the numbers, right? You know, when we say that we're seeing, you know, the accounts scale 5 to 10x in terms of quality, and seeing costs way better than what Google is conservatively projecting at 20-30% lower costs. You know, I mean, that's just reality of it, right? When you're able to implement these systems and tell Google what's working, that's the power of the machine learning, right? When you're able to feed it the right business data and lean into it. So I think you've laid it out very beautifully here, and given us some really practical takeaways that we can use to start implementing our campaigns today, just to get started with it, right? You know, and this is one of those things, guys, where the sooner you start implementing these practices into your Google Ads campaigns, the better outcomes you're going to have, you know, the long term, right? Because it's just a data thing, right? The sooner you're able to start collecting data and start feeding this engine, the quicker it's going to start to grow and scale for you in 2023. So Julia, thank you. No, I think this presentation was fantastic. You know, and yeah, no, I think these takeaways are like fundamental and key for anyone that's looking to scale their Google Ads in 2023. Guys, if you ever have any questions, yeah, Adam agreed. This was excellent. Feel free to drop me or Julia a note if you guys are looking to get feedback on your Google Ads campaigns. We're here to help. We want to give you guys feedback. Yeah, thank you, Becca. This was awesome. And this recording will be on our YouTube channel in the next couple of days. So if you want to, I'm sure you guys were taking those seriously, but if you want to, you know, go back and catch up on some things or get a refresher, it'll be there for you as well. So Julia, once again, thank you. Before we wrap, as always, thank you guys for joining. Next week, we are going to have a session on connected TV. So it's all about how do we advertise on TV using digital ad platforms, right? It's very cool. It's a very emerging field. There are a lot of you know, sort of nuances and vendors we can talk about. It's going to be a really exciting one. So we hope to see you guys there. And with that, yeah, thank you again for joining the Growth Clinic. We hope you guys tune in next week, and we'll have more good stuff for you in the weeks ahead.